Sergeant America here, boom. That little blur was Private Peanut getting the heck out of here. Uh, See me wearing my grim and trim Punisher shirt. I wish I could be telling you I was talking about the Punisher. Instead, picked up from the library Inhumanity, this $50 hard book edition. Was, a wonderful read, but shows the glaring problem that Marvel often has with books. Um, I guess especially the storylines. Inhumanity. Um, you know, Picking it up, I was expecting, a good 10 issues of the Inhumans. It's going to tell about, the beginning of the Inhumans, the rise, whatever. Wasn't entirely sure what I would get. Instead, it does a quick little discussion that Thanos has come to Earth. He's looking for his son, who's part Inhuman, to protect Black Bolt's people. Black Bolt decides that he will release a Terrigen bomb, which will create a Terrigen cloud, which will cover the Earth, turning any of the people with any traces in human blood into Inhumans. I don't know too much that led up to that decision. I don't know too much shortly afterwards. But what happens is, of course, Attilan, the Inhuman city, falls from the sky into the Hudson River near Manhattan in New York. Um, and it starts off, the first two books of this is Inhumans. It's, let's get to it. Inhumanity 1 and 2. So that's the two books of Medusa as queen, trying to piece together her people after this tragedy that her husband has created. It has a couple other big names that we know. Karnak is one of the big ones, and he's just freaking out. And the queen is trying to figure out what's wrong with him, and he sees, I guess, a terrible flaw in the inhumanity idea. So, it was just a wonderful read, and I have to say, almost all the stories were just a good read too. A lot of great art in different books, but the trouble is so there's two books of Inhumanity, 1 and 2. Then it's the Indestructible Hulk, 17 and 19, or sorry, 17 through 19. Uncanny XMen number 15. Avengers Assemble 21 through 23. Iron Man 20 INH. Mighty Avengers 4 and 5, Avengers AI number 7, Inhumanity The Awakening 1 through 2, Inhumanity Superior Spider-Man number 1, and the New Avengers number 13. Now, the New Avengers number 13, the very last book in the book, or last, chapter of the book, what you want to call it, is actually just a lead up to the Incursion Secret Wars. Two Earths are crossing into each other's reality. They're going to crash into each other unless one of them is sacrificed. The New Avengers at this point is the Illuminati, and they are deciding to destroy other planets or save other planets or do whatever they can, or just watch some of the other planets crash into each other. So if you just take that one off the book, it really wasn't needed. It was just feeding from Inhumanity and the Secret Wars. Uh, Otherwise, like I mentioned, the Inhumanity story I thought was the artwork on it was just great. Um, and it's interesting to learn about Medusa and watch her, feed into the new leader of the Inhumans. The Indestructible Hulk, it's Bruce Banner is a scientist of S.H.I.E.L.D. and has been given the job by Stark and some of the other scientists to see if he can help stop the Terrigen cloud. This will stop people from transforming and take care of one situation. But they give him a really short time frame, and even then they come back and check on him early, and they find out he's making a bomb. It's all about Bruce Banner and his crew. The Avengers, try to steal the bomb. Bruce turns into the Hulk and wants to release the bomb. So it's the idea of, what does this bomb do and can it help? It's also about poking the bear. And that's what happens is Iron Man knows and purposely seems to do this over and over again. He sets up Bruce and then pokes him with a stick until Bruce fails. Um, so I mean, once again, it was very tight artwork. I enjoyed it. The storyline was really nice, um, and it was just interesting to watch all that develop. It feeds into the next story, which is the Uncanny XMen. It's Girls' Night Out. So you got Magic, Emma, the Kukels, Kitty Pryde, Irma, and Tempest. And they're all out on the town shopping, having a good time, and they come across somebody going through the Terrigenesis and being released. This seems to be that point where they're phasing the X-Men out and phasing the Inhumans in. And by doing that, I mean they're basically saying, "Hey, we're about the same thing," so that when X-Men disappear, the Inhumans say, "Remember when the X-Men said that we're just like them?" And they just fit right into that spot. Uh, and that's pretty much all the story was. It was uh, kind of sad. That one was. Um, the Avengers Assemble was a very good story about Spider Girl, um, whose professor disappears, and she believes that he may have become one of the Inhumans. And she goes to the Avengers, and at first the Avengers were going to blow it off, but then they decide to help her out. So they assign a different Avenger through each book to help her out. So it's each one with their individual skills solving this mystery puzzle that Spider Girl's brought to them. I mean, that was a really smart storyline. I enjoyed it. You got to see individual interaction between Spider Girl and all these different Avengers. I think there was about 4 or 5 total, and so I mean, it was really nice. It was a very good, solid storyline. And once again, all these stories are just skirting around the outside of the whole Inhumanity storyline. So I mean, you don't need any of these to really enjoy the book. The only problem is the I mean, there's not much of the Inhumanity story otherwise. I mean, there was the two Inhumans, a little bit of the Inhumanity awakening, um, which I'm trying to see the story of Mighty Avengers. Uh, the, this one also it just barely touches on the Inhumanity storyline. I'm sure they had to include it in. Um, you got some corporation that wants to get in, get the knowledge. The Mighty Avengers is trying to stop them. Meanwhile, Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man, Doc Ock, is fighting Luke Cage for the right to be able to run the Mighty Avengers. So with that all that stuff in there, you could tell that it was just very loosely meant to tie into the storyline. It was, like I said, fine. The Avengers AI #7. I don't know too much about the AI. They kind of, you quickly figure out a lot of them are all have something to do with its vision. There's a Doombot, um, Hank Pym as Ant-Man, and in this episode or issue, they have a Daredevil. So there's just that, good guy versus good guy fight, because of the miscommunication. They're really just looking for an older lady who has disappeared and ends up that she is becoming inhuman. They try and help her deal with, becoming an inhuman, a monster. And Medusa shows up and ends up taking the person from them. And, it's, probably a little less, I mean, it's a little more typical on what you can expect out of that. The Inhumanity Awakening was a bunch of X-Men and Avenger Academy kids. And we discussed it on a comic book roundtable. We're seeing more and more modern technology storytelling. So in this one, one of the X-Men, Pixie, is monitoring social media. finds a young lady who is suddenly stopped her communication, and so she thinks that she has gone through the pterogenesis. Um, they find the girl she has, and then they're showing like all of her Facebook or Twitter style photos, and it's told through that style. It's almost like a Facebook posting, a little bit of explanation, and then there's two people commenting. One is like her best friend. One is some mean troll who is, you know, framing what is happening to her in this life as she becomes an Inhuman. And it was the X-Men once again saying, "You were like us, we were like you." Um, just basically getting ready to phase these X-Men out and push in the new Inhumans. And it was a good story. It's the kind of thing that you kind of just expect out of an X-Men storyline, I guess. Um, it was all right. It was once again just touching the peripheral on the storyline. They evidently didn't have enough to do a full Inhumanity story, and that's what's bad. I mean, if you want the whole storyline, you're collecting 10 different books. So even into the Superior Spider-Man, it's another one of those stories where it's loose technology from Attilan, and I mean it was a decent storyline. It was somebody who was trying to keep a loved one alive and using technology, um, while everybody else is changing around them. And it was. I've been a fan of the Superior Spider-Man, of the villain who becomes a hero, um, or somewhat hero. So that was enjoyable. And then, like I said, it fed into New Avengers, which is just that touch-off point into the new Secret Wars, the Incursion. So um, it's what we mentioned. We see so often with Marvel. Collect all 10 different books. Hopefully, you pick up these three, and then you just want to get into the new characters that you've read, and so that you only become Marvel because you're spending, $50 on the book. So that means this is cheaper than the individual issues. So, you know, how much are you spending on separate issues? $50 to $75. Um, it's just one of those things. I mean, it must work. We're seeing Marvel do this more and more. We see this continued on, and I guess that's the thing. Thumbs up, thumbs down, and comment and let me know. But is Marvel smart by doing this? Are they right, or are times changing and this is no longer the way to do this? So, Inhumanity, the book was great. Like I said, enjoyed all of it, but I'm not going to collect all these other books. I'm not going to get into a storyline, pick and read, all the different ones. I did do that with Siege, with Thor. I was brand new. I got into all of it, but then it's one of those things when I look back, I don't know that I would. I obviously never have done that again. I haven't purchased a whole series of the storyline like that. Um, so I mean, is Marvel grabbing the one-time dollar instead of looking further out? I don't know. Please comment, tell me, make videos. It's one of the greatest things that we get to do is just chat about this kind of stuff. So, Sergeant America here. Catchphrase.